That's 800-298-2007. 800-298-2007.
Hot takes. So I'm going to apologize to Ryan Day. Everything we said about Ryan Day up into the playoffs was true. Not bad. Better than that. To be fair, of all the elite quarterbacks in the NFL, Joe Burrow is the least accomplished. Getting better. 1,000,000%. I 1,000,000% believe that the Dayton Flyers are afraid of the Wright State Raiders. That's why they come up with every excuse in the book not to play them. And it is the hottest take of them all. It's the Justin Kinner Show, presented by Frickers, live on 1410 ESPN Radio.
All right, everybody. Happy Monday. We welcome you in live here. I'm Justin Kinner. He's Kev Nash. Mr. Kev Nash, welcome.
What up, though?
The Justin Kinner Show, presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. So let me get this straight. When Joe Burrow throws for 330 yards a game and 17 touchdowns a game, they can't win a game. And then when they look absolutely horrendous back-to-back weeks, they find ways to win games. It's like the key for the Bengals to win games is to play poorly. And then when you play well offensively, that's how you lose football games. What a wild start to the season for the Bengals. It was all about getting off to a hot start, and that's what they've technically done. They're 2-0. But man, oh man, I think last year seemed more exciting for Bengals fans because I think fans would rather lose with Joe Burrow healthy and playing than win without him at this point moving forward. It's kind of an interesting little dynamic or dilemma that Bengals fans find themselves in. But yeah, we all know what happened. We all know the situation at hand as we sit here right now. Of course, Joe Burrow, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter, it came out like he was on. So Adam Schefter was on Get Up this morning. And then he had to get up. He picked up his phone and walked off. And I was like, I guarantee you this is about the Joe Burrow news. And sure enough, it was. ESPN sources, Adam Schefter, this came out earlier today, that the Cincinnati Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow will need toe surgery, and that will sideline him a minimum of 3 months. And that's, basically what has led us to the sky is falling at this point for the Cincinnati Bengals. You finally get a normal offseason, finally in a situation where this team is going to be in a position to win some games. And they've played, I don't think they've looked good the first 2 weeks, and they're 2-0. And these are games that they lost last season. Now they're winning them. You're 2-0. You come away with a game winner with your backup quarterback yesterday. Fans are excited about it, but that's not what people are talking about today. People aren't talking about the 2-0 record for the Bengals. People aren't talking about, that their backup and Jake Browning came in, and despite the 3 interceptions, still, threw multiple touchdowns, including diving in for the winning touchdown yesterday. Kev, the Cincinnati Bengals are the weirdest team in football, the worst team in football. Is that a fair assessment to say about the Cincinnati Bengals? What a weird start.
Such a weird start for the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, so I shared with you what I was doing during the game. So I went home to visit the parentals up there in Cleveland for the weekend and stuff like that. And we decided to, let's hit the road. We hit the road about noon. So, we're driving, games finally starting, stuff like that. We're listening to the Browns game on the radio on the way down. And, the better half says, hey, let's make a stop at that one restaurant downtown Columbus. And as I'm thinking to myself, like, we were going to get home just in time for the second half of the games. But, being a good husband, you do what they say. So we make a stop at said restaurant downtown Columbus. We eat. And, I'm watching the games on my phone, whatever the case may be. And then, hey, let's stop at this shop right down the way. They had this dress I wanted. Being the great husband that I am, we go to said shop. I buy said dress, and we're finally headed back to the car. Oh, isn't that where we did the whole watch party thing at DraftKings Sports and Social? Let's stop in there. And then I say, oh, yes, let's do that. That sounds like a great idea. So we watched the fourth quarter. It's all the games on. So I'm watching my beloved Steelers have the worst defense in the NFL's history, giving up 31 points a game, and also the highest paid defense. We'll talk about that later. I'm watching them lose to the Seahawks. I'm watching your Cleveland Browns just lose every type of way imaginable with a great defensive performance because they returned interceptions, they returned block punts. It was just a debacle for the Browns outside of the defense. But then on the other TV, there's the Cincinnati Bengals. And at this moment, the Bengals are losing, and the Jaguars are inside the 5-yard line. So the Steelers just turn it over on downs. Browns just turn it over on downs. All right, well, they being the Jaguars are about to punch this in or kick a field goal, and that's going to be that. So all three teams in the AFC North are going to lose outside of the Ravens. So we get up and go to the car. We drive on home. Get home, Cincinnati Bengals win football game. Cincinnati Bengals win football game. And
Never
I'm thinking,
them out.
how did that happen? So I watch highlights. Trevor Lawrence throws an interception in the end zone. The Bengals drive the length of the field for the game winner after Jake Browning those 3 interceptions in the game, but somehow, some way, they win the game. And as we talked about last week, it really don't matter. The NFL has become the NBA. It don't matter about quarters 1, 2, and 3. Matter of fact, it don't even matter what happens in the fourth quarter until it's 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. That's the only thing that matters is the last 8 minutes, apparently, in the NFL now. Crazy scenario, but obviously the talk of the day is Joe Burrow being out for not 1, not 2, 3 months.
And there's a lot of, the reports of that being the case. He's going to have the toe surgery that's going to put him at least 3 months. That brings you back in mid-December, and the thing is, if he comes back, that means that the Bengals are still in the playoff hunt. And I think that's right. There's a lot of different directions we can go with this. Will the Bengals even still be in the hunt? I think that, we talk about it's not how you start, it's how you finish. I think we've learned from the last couple of years from the Bengals that, yes, it is how you start, because the Bengals have finished last year. I think the Bengals were one of the hottest teams in the National Football League. They would have given the Bills fits. They would have given the Chiefs fits. They would have given any team in the AFC fits. They could have easily got to the AFC Championship game. It wouldn't have surprised anybody to see the Bengals, even with that bad defense, get to the Super Bowl. They've won 7 straight going back to last year. They won their final 5 games last year, and they missed the playoffs. They were one of the best teams in football when that season ended, but they didn't get into the playoffs because of how they started. Well, this year, who knows how they're going to look in December, but they may have a shot because of how they started. They are 2-0. You're going to go up against a Vikings team that I am the quarterback. Who would have thought? I wonder who was, I think there was 2 people in this room. 2 out of 2 people in this room have said that the quarterback for the Vikings is butt cheeks. Like, he's not very good. So, I think the Bengals have a shot, but we'll get to the big picture stuff. Let's just talk about the impact of this. This isn't just a team losing their star quarterback. It's a team losing their star quarterback again. This is year 6. And I don't think we see Joe Burrow the rest of the season. I don't think that the Bengals, they might be mathematically in it, but realistically, will they still be in it? There's a difference. I always use the Reds as an example. The Reds are 2.5 games out of a playoff spot. They're mathematically in it. You watch this team, they're not. It's unfortunate, but they're not, right? I think we've all made this. I don't know why I wore this. My bad. This red shirt, but I think that at the end of the day, we're not going to. This could potentially be 3 season-ending injuries in 6 seasons for Joe Burrow. And it's just always something. Not blaming Joe Burrow, not blaming anyone. It's just always something. And it doesn't matter whose fault it is. It doesn't matter. When people bring it up, it's the GM's fault. It's the front office's fault, not valuing the offensive line. This is just football. That injury could happen to anybody, but that anybody always does seem to be Joe Burrow, from pinkies to wrists to appendectomes, to every L in your leg. The MCL, the ACL, the every wrist. L, the wrist, everything you can imagine. It's always something, and add this to the list of somethings. It's never repeat injuries. It's always a different injury. I don't know.
I like what you just said.
It's always something. The L's, no,
no. It's always something because it's not a repeat injury. Like when we talk about guys like Joel Embiid or a Kawhi Leonard, it's the back, it's the knee, it's one or the other. It's going to be one of those. With Joe Burrow, man, it's pick your poison. Like you said, it's nobody's fault necessarily. Your appendix explodes. Like, nobody is planning for that. Nobody says, all right, today's the day this is going to happen, or today's the day that there's nothing you can really do to prevent those type of things. And especially an injury like a turf toe or a broken toe, basically that's what it is. It's tackle football. Like, that's what happens. So bad offensive line, like, yes and no. Like, he's going to get touched. Every quarterback gets touched. I know in today's football, if you breathe on the quarterback, it's a 15-yard penalty, but you're going to get touched. You're going to get tackled, and especially the way he plays. And nobody's sitting here and saying, like, oh, man, Joe Burrow is out there on the edge and just running around like a maniac trying to make plays down the field. But he is the type of quarterback that holds onto the ball to the absolute 10th of a second, waiting for that big play. That's the style of play that he has. Shoot, think back to when Big Ben was in the NFL and in his prime. He was always banged up. It wasn't the offensive line's fault. because you got guys on that offensive line that are going to be going to the Hall of Fame, like the Pouncey brother. But it's the style of play, and part of that is his style of play. A broken toe, it kind of is what it is. And I know, like in the NBA, the sport that I follow probably the closest, it's a toe is a major. Like a toe took Shaquille O'Neal out. Like that's the reason why Shaq fell off, and that's part of the reason why Shaq just like, oh man, he's the Shaq Diesel until he became just fat dude because he's had a broken toe, so was not able to do any cardio or anything like that. Not saying Joe Burrow is going to turn into a blimp or anything like that, but like a toe injury is major. So this is a big deal.
And, and where do the Bengals go from here? I think right now they're 2-0. They found a way to win that game. That's a game they lose a year ago. They were hideous in week 1. They lose that game a year ago. They found ways to win. But it's just one of those, okay, you win those ugly games with Joe Burrow, you still feel like we're a Super Bowl contender. They win those games without Joe Burrow moving forward, and it's like, man, we're just fighting to sneak into the playoffs, barely miss the playoffs. It's going to be interesting what direction that the Bengals want to go. They went all in the offseason. They made it painful. All right. They didn't do, it's not like they really, it's not to say they didn't want to. They wanted to make it the path of most resistance, it seemed at times, but they got the deal done with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, eventually got the deal done with Trey Hendrickson. They spent the money. But, the one thing you brought up too, people keep bringing up, man, the Bengals front office failed Joe Burrow, that this injury happened because of that. That doesn't make any sense. Joe Burrow could have the best offensive line. That would not have kept his toe from being bent in the direction that it went into the ground. Brock Purdy has one of the best offensive lines in football, and he's out for a few weeks. Like, let's not. I just think it's a weird.
Football. Yeah, tackle football. These type of things happen.
Yeah, like did he hurt his toe because of the wear and tear of 4 years? I think he's been sacked the second most times since 2020. I think he's been sacked over 200 times in that stretch. I mean, 70 of those came in the Super Bowl season. He's been hit. He's been hit a lot, but. Like Kev, I don't think that toe bent that direction because he's been hit 200 times since 2020. I don't understand people's mindset. I guess you could say, well, because he continues to get hit at such a high clip, the probability of him experiencing one of these injuries is going to be high. But that injury could have happened to anybody. That's not on the offensive line. It's not anybody. But again, it's always something. Josh Allen, to your point about Ben Roethlisberger, he plays such a physical style. Josh Allen plays that same style to the point where it ticks Bills fans off a lot. But knock on wood for him, he's never experienced. He's an Iron Man. He doesn't miss games. He doesn't get hurt. As he gets older, maybe that body starts to let him down a little bit, and the Bills will deal with that later. Patrick Mahomes is a physical quarterback. I was watching that Eagles game yesterday. He was throwing his body all over the field. He gets a little scratched up, but he never misses significant time. Joe Burrow, this isn't a shot. I think I've done pretty good. We're 10 minutes into this. I'm not taking a shot because I don't find that funny that he's out for potentially the season. That makes my job worse, by the way. I don't want to talk about your boring backup quarterback. I have to talk about my boring starting quarterbacks enough as it is. I don't need your boring backups. But like, it's no one's fault, but he is fragile. It's not a shot. He is fragile. Let's not forget why he didn't win the starting job at Ohio State. It wasn't just because Dwayne Haskins was better quarterback at that time. He wasn't in a position to be in battle for the starting job consistently because he was always out with an injury. Injuries have plagued him going back to even his college days, Kev. Like, there's just something about Burrow. He's a gamer. He has that it factor. He has a little bit of that Tom Brady in him. He has everything, but he's fragile. He doesn't have what Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and some of these other guys have, where they just never seem to miss games, and that's unfortunate. Lamar Jackson, who we're told, man, he's that style, it's never going to work. I was one of them at first. The guy, he's had a couple injuries. Some of those I think he milked during the contract negotiation, which whatever, it worked because he's been healthy as could be ever since then. It's funny how when you get paid, how much happier you are with that, being banged up. But like even him, he's knock on wood for him, they stay healthy. I think Joe Burrow is an injury-prone quarterback, and that's just unfortunate because everything for the team's big picture outlook resides on his shoulders.
Yeah, it does. I mean, we can talk about like Jake Browning being a gamer and being probably, in my opinion, the best backup in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean,
as I think about it, who is the best backup in the NFL? It's got to be him, right? Unless, I know that it just came across a ticker that
Jane Daniels.
No, what's his name from Minnesota?
Oh, Kirk Cousins.
No.
I'm letting you drag.
I know. No,
sorry,
you're good.
My bad.
Carson Wentz is going to be starting because McCarthy for the Vikings has a bad ankle. So actually, the Minnesota Vikings
skill set.
Anyway. Minnesota Vikings just got better as a football team because their starting quarterback is on the bench, and they're going to be going to Carson Wentz. But yeah, like I just look at Joe Burrow. So I've met Joe Burrow before. Obviously, not the NFL version of Joe Burrow, but like he not only facial wise, but like body wise, he looks like a regular dude. He's pretty tall, but I mean, there's a big difference between 6'3", 215 pounds, and 6'5", 245 pounds. That's Josh Allen that I was talking about. There's a huge difference in size and stature when you talk about those guys. Now, another guy actually shorter and weighs less than Joe Burrow is who you were talking about, Lamar Jackson, but he's fast as grease lightning. So
it's kind of hard to hurt him when you can't catch him, but nonetheless. All right. I'm Justin Kinner. He's Kev Nash, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. 937-518-1410. Bengals fans, how do we feel? You're 2-0. This is the fast start. I mean, it's a fast start record-wise, but it seems like a demoralizing start because you're without your quarterback for the next 3 months, possibly the season. 937-518-1410. What direction should the Bengals go in from here? Do you stick with Jake Browning? Do you look to trade for a quarterback? Do you kick the tires on the potential Kirk Cousins? I'm a Jameis Winston guy. I don't know what it does for wins and all this stuff, but can you imagine Jameis Winston with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase? It would be wild. It would be wild. And there's a lot of primetime games for the Bengals coming up. That would be some must-see TV. But let's pick up with this conversation when we come back. There's a lot of different directions we can go with this, but we'll pick up with this more when we return. We'll also get into more Week 2 NFL action coming up around the corner. I'm going to stall to prevent from talking Browns as long as possible. It's the Justin Kinner Show. Kev Nash with us here today on a Monday. We'll be right back. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash with you live here on a Monday. Anyone else just getting destroyed by allergies this year?
Woo!
I just sit here and rub my eyes the entire segment that we're on camera. I just finally had to give up. I'm back to the glasses. I give up. My eyes are the allergies are undefeated with me this season.
Fall, spring, or winter allergies?
It feels
or
like
summer.
I mean, I guess I feel like this has been the worst fall I think I've ever had. I think fall. Spring isn't bad. That's why I started wearing glasses all the time, because contact, and I need to get that little, where they get the melon baller and pop your eye out.
Oh, never.
Or LASIK, as they call it. But yeah, that
never.
My wife did that, and I watched the whole thing, and I was terrified.
Did you?
You sit in the waiting room, and like they have the cameras on, so they have like little TVs in the little waiting room, and you just watch the whole thing happen. I just watched them just stab my wife's eye the whole time.
You're braver than me. I have
She's braver than me.
horrible fall allergies. Spring, pretty bad. Summer, mid at best. Fall, the worst. Eyes on fire daily. Congested every morning. Scratchy throat. Scratchy roof of the mouth. And scratchy inside your ear, so you'll feel like you got a bug in your ear all the time. My fall allergies are the worst. So I'm going to feel like this now until probably November.
I'm going to Florida.
It's only September 15th.
Florida next week. I'm excited about that. I'm hoping I don't have these issues over there. I should not.
Good luck.
I should not. We'll see. All right, we welcome you back. This was posted. ESPN's Adam Schefter. He's been busy today. He tweeted this out earlier today, Kev, that the Bengals pass protection rankings since drafting Joe Burrow. It's the pass block win rate per ESPN research. So if you go back to 2020, this is where the Bengals rank with their offensive line amongst the pass block win rate. Okay. In 2020, his rookie season, where he experienced the season-ending injury in Week 11 against the Commanders, they ranked 29th. In 2021, when they went to the Super Bowl, which is very impressive, they ranked 30th. They ranked 30th in 2022 because, hey, we got to a Super Bowl ranked 30th. Why improve anything? So 30th back-to-back years. Major improvements in 2003 as they go from 30th to 27th. They dropped to 32nd last year, and they are sitting at 28th right now. Burrow has not played behind an offensive line that didn't rank in the bottom quartile when it comes to pass block win rate. And people are using this, and they are compounding it with the constant injuries that Joe Burrow seems to be facing. Obviously, the 2020 injury, as we talked about, where he missed a lot of that time with the season-ending injury. He's also had, by the way, that has nothing to do with the appendectomy, but he had the appendectomy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in 2020, he had the torn ACL, MCL, PCL, meniscus. Everything you can imagine in your leg region, he freaking ripped. All right. In 2021, a year later, he had that dislocated pinky. The 2022 season, the MCL sprain. In 2023, he had the torn wrist ligament, which he ended up missing the rest of the season. Was healthy all of last year. Started out a little, again, he was kind of fighting off a little bit of some of the stuff from the wrist injury the year before. But once he got comfortable, I think you could pinpoint which game. He started looking good against the Chiefs, and then the Ravens he exploded against. Remember that? Like, that's never looking back from there. And then, of course, the grade 3 turf toe injury that he sustained yesterday. He's going to be out at least 3 months. I think he's out. Again, I just pretend to be a doctor Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 right here. But, at a certain point, if the Bengals are out of it, and with how fragile he is, I think it would be silly to bring him back at all. I'd say given that extra time to heal up, be 100% by camp next year. And let's try this whole let's be 100% thing at camp again and see where we go. But no, Kev, it just always seems to be something. So people are they're looking at the correlation of all these injuries with where the Bengals pass block rate was those seasons. I know we talked about it to open up the show, but I think two things my stance on this is I'm not blaming the offensive line for these injuries. And that could be true, while also saying, yeah, they need to be better offensive line wise. That also needs to be true as well. It's amazing to me. This team doesn't have many Hall of Famers at all. The one Hall of Famer they have is an offensive lineman. and yet they are known for having no talented offensive linemen ever. It is, shout out to Willie, Willie as well. But the bottom line is, I don't blame the offensive line for this injury. I don't blame the offensive line for the torn ACL, MCL. These are football injuries. The appendectomy where he missed time and he missed camp and it impacted his start. That's not an offensive line injury. I don't know, Cab. Are these wear and tear? What can you? I guess let me ask you this. I'm saying it's not. Me and you kind of agree on this, but what can you blame the offensive line on for these injuries when it comes to that, or can you?
Well, you definitely can blame the offensive line. Like I don't think there's one like, all right, it's 100% on the offensive line, it's 100% on the quarterback. It's the blame chart. It's the blame pie. Everybody's going to get their own fair slice of the blame pie. If people want to give 90% of the offensive line, 10% to Joe Burrow, whatever. The fact of the matter is he's banged up and he's hurt. My thing is I see the fan base mad at the organization about this. You got to protect him. You got to do this. You got to do that. Well, to my recollection, they have spent multiple first-round draft picks on offensive linemen. They've also spent money in free agency on offensive linemen, not just like me and use the block, but like they went and got Orlando Brown. Orlando Brown was with the Baltimore Ravens, then the Chiefs, and won a Super Bowl. So like he's a valuable piece to multiple teams in the NFL. So like he's no scrub. So like at some point, like it can't just be like, all right, man, it's the offensive line's fault. It's their fault. It's their fault. Yes, those numbers are glaring, no doubt about it. But I truly believe that part of the situation or part of the problem is the style of play. And also, I get it. You have Jamar Chase. You have T. Higgins. Yeah, we're going for the home run shot. We're going for the kill ball. We're going deep. Like, I mean, just like I was playing football with my nephew when I was up in Cleveland. Throw it deep. You don't want to run like no slants, no drags. No, I want to go deep. I want to throw it deep. I want to throw it deep. Like, that's like the urge to do. Like, shoot, you go to any basketball court around town now. Kids ain't like, oh, man, let me start out with a layup. They're starting with 40-foot heaves because it's the cool thing to do. I think that's part of the problem. When you take deep drop backs and want to take deep shots, you're more susceptible of getting hit. So it's the blame pie goes to everybody. But the fact of the matter is the dude's going to be out 3 months. Where do you go from here?
Yeah, where do you go from here? That is the big question. And it's like, okay, so some reports have come out that the Cincinnati Bengals, Adam Schefter said that the Bengals have been calling around to other free agent quarterbacks since Joe Burrow's injury, knowing that they will have to add at least one to their roster. So a lot of Bengals fans get excited. I'm a non-Bengals fan, and I'm like, even I would love to see, now that my team's out of it, I'm like, okay, whatever. I just want to be entertained. I would love to see a Jameis Winston, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins trio. Like, I've seen Jameis Winston just light it up with about anybody out there. I mean, great wide receivers in Tampa, underrated wide receivers. They're just they're underwhelming as far as just like the aura and all this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he had great wide receivers in Tampa.
Mike Evans going to the Hall of Fame.
He put up last year with Cleveland, he didn't have great wide receivers, but he made Jerry Jeudy look like a star. He made Cedric Tillman in a limited amount of time. Cedric Tillman caught those balls for whatever reason. Caught
an interception yesterday.
Yeah, I mean,
for a touchdown.
It was any luck is luck, at this point for Cleveland. But no, imagine him in that offense. That's unlikely. He's the backup with the Giants right now, of course, but Jackson Dart technically is the backup. Jameis Winston is a third-string quarterback for the Giants. As much as I would love to see that in Cincinnati, I've seen a lot of Bengals fans today say no, they would not like to see that. But, and I always question why. But who would be the ideal name to stick back there, or is that ideal name already there?
Yeah, I'm good with Jake Browning. Like we talked about in segment one, I think he's probably the best backup in the NFL. So for now, you're trying to get like that third guy, somebody that can come in there and just hold the fort down in case he goes down. I can't even imagine who that would be. Who, like, nobody, we talk about like who's the best backup in the league. I don't think anybody talks about who's the best third stringer in the NFL. I am clueless because I can't think of anybody. I can't think of anybody out there that you could be like, all right, yeah, let's bring him in to be our new backup. I don't even know if people know who the third string quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals is right now. I
mean, they knew Desmond Ridder, who for a little bit was there.
Okay.
But he was cut.
Yeah.
During, camp. Now, I bring this up because Shefty brings that up that they've been calling around to free agent quarterbacks. That's the key. They're not trading. The Bengals aren't giving up anything, and they're not going to spend heavy dollars on anything. They're cheap when it comes to trying to go in on investing in a roster that's a Super Bowl contender as it is. This team's not a Super Bowl contender now. What makes you think that they're going to invest into that even more, right? Like, I just don't see that happening. Here's the list. So for Bengals fans out there that are like, well, this would be kind of exciting if they went after Jameis Winston, or if they, went this route, or, Kirk Cousins. That's not going to happen. Here's the free agent quarterbacks that are out there. So if Shefty says that the Bengals are calling free agent quarterbacks, here's the quarterbacks that are available right now in free agency. Mike White, John Wolford, Taylor Heineke, whatever his name was, Heine, probably.
That out of those three, okay.
Kyle Trask. Let's see. My personal favorite, I have a soft spot for this guy, DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Yep, let's go there. Tim Boyle, Bryce Perkins, Desmond Ridder. That's where you're at. My thing is this. If they're calling those names, guys, they're not calling those to be the replacement for Joe Burrow. They're calling those guys to be the backup to the backup. And I think that Jake Browning is the guy. The problem is like when you lose your starting quarterback, that's it. Like a backup quarterback's job is, oh man, yeah, Joe Burrow tweaked something. We just need Jake Browning to go in there for a quarter or two, or just finish out the game as we head into a bye week, and we'll get him healthy, and we'll have Joe Burrow back in a few weeks. That's the job of a backup quarterback. The job of a backup quarterback is not really to come in and lead you all the way. That's why when it does happen, it's a huge storyline, like with Tom Brady, with the Bledsoe thing, like that was like an amazing thing. You think of college football, you go to your backup quarterback at halftime of a national championship game, and Tua leads you to the win. You think of the Ohio State Buckeyes in 2014. You go to your backup. Braxton goes down. You go to JT Barrett. He goes down at the end of the season. You got to go to your third string quarterback, and somehow, some way, you get better. And Cardale Jones leads you to a national title. That happens a lot in college. Doesn't happen a lot in the NFL. The last time it happened in the NFL, I guess, would have been the Eagles with why am I drawing a blank?
Nick Foles. And that was fool's gold. The Jaguars fell for the fool's gold because he ended up getting paid like 35 million for 4 years or whatever after being a Super Bowl MVP, and he never looked like that again. So take that, Tom Brady.
Yeah, like if the Bengals do go cheap here, Kev, I don't look at it as a cheap decision. I look at it as the smart decision. I don't think you should give up any draft picks to go get Jameis Winston. Now I'm probably talking out of both sides of my mouth here. I would love to see that. I just think it would be silly. You're going to go get Jameis Winston to what? Maybe you catch fire and you sneak into the playoffs and you get ousted in the first game. Was that really worth giving up a draft pick? Your defense is horrendous. You need every draft pick possible. And if anything, lean into it with Browning. You either win a lot of games and you get into the playoffs, same result, but you don't give up any draft picks, or you stink. And there's an individual that I will be super pissed if he ends up in Cincinnati, but Caleb Downs, there's nothing wrong with being in a position to get a Caleb Downs at the end of the year. Have you seen your defense? It's laughable. As bad as the Browns are offensively, the Bengals are that bad defensively.
Yeah, so this article is from SI. This came out back in May, and it talks about the best backup quarterbacks in the NFL. At 1, they have Kirk Cousins. At 2, Jimmy Garoppolo. 3, Daniel Jones, but Daniel Jones ultimately won that starting job with the Colts. Jake Browning at 4. Jackson Dart at 5. Mac Jones, who got a win yesterday with the San Francisco 49ers. And Marcus Mariota with the Commanders. Andy Dalton with the Panthers.
Wouldn't that be something?
Malik Willis with the Packers, and then Jacoby with the Cardinals. So, but the thing about it is, I like, oh man, Marcus Mariota, or Malik Wilson. Like those guys don't fit what you do.
Browning does.
Browning fits what you do.
Yeah.
So 9 times out of 10, you're probably just gonna call up the guy from UC and bring him back because he already has been in your building.
Yep.
You're going to call Desmond Ridder. Yeah, you're just going to call him, and he's going to be more than happy to be back on the NFL roster, considering how things went with Atlanta and the Cardinals the last season. So, yeah, that's the move. You don't trade. Like people like, oh, man, trade for this guy. Like these things are actually going to work. They don't work. It doesn't work like that. Because there's no quick fixes out there. And we look at this all the time about like, oh, man, we got to get our quarterback of the future. We're not about to spend draft capital to get a aight dude. You got an aight dude. Just roll with the aight dude that you got.
That's why I said those names that I threw out there, I mean, Adam Schefter said they were reaching out to free agent quarterbacks. The Bengals weren't quickly getting on the phone. All right, Giants. Jackson Dart's next up behind Russell Wilson. But question, what would it take to get Russell Wilson? Or a question, how much would it take to get Jameis Winston? They're not even going that route.
Right.
And by the way, I'm not knocking the Bengals for that. I think it's a silly route. I don't know, like the interceptions are a sticking point for a lot of people, but I'm telling you, Jake Browning is a fine quarterback. The Bengals, when Joe Burrow went out for the season 2 years ago in week 11 again, they had a 500 record with Jake Browning the rest of the way. You could win football games with Jake Browning. You've won football games with Jake Browning. What I think people are nervous about is because there's a difference between losing Joe Burrow in week 11 when there's light at the end of the title and to close out the season and losing Joe Burrow in week 2. And at the very least being without him until mid-December. That's 12 games, including a bye week. I mean, again, there is not a solution out there, though. There's no one out there that's going to come save the day. And to be honest, even if Joe Burrow's healthy, even if they would, they were being outplayed yesterday. Like they could have easily lost yesterday, but they won. It doesn't matter. They were still playing poor to start, but they were finding ways to win. And I think they're going to be in position to find ways to continue to win moving forward. When you look at the fact that they do have the Vikings coming up, the Broncos don't look as good as what even I thought that they were going to be. They lost yesterday. How about the Colts, by the way? They only team in football. They haven't punted yet.
Crazy.
Maybe I should have got Daniel Jones. Hey, maybe the Browns should have got Daniel Jones at this point. I thought the Browns were too good to get Daniel Jones.
He's cooking.
Yeah.
He's cooking.
So nonetheless.
Respect.
All right. I'm Justin Kenner. He's Kev Nash, 1410 ESPN Radio. Step away for a few moments. Closing thoughts on this Joe Burrow situation. This is going to be an ongoing conversation throughout the show and throughout the week, of course. I can't get a pulse to Bengals fans. Like, it's depression, but excitement at the same time. Like, what do you do there? It's like a Red Bull vodka. It's like, you know what I mean? Like you're combining things that you shouldn't combine. You should not combine losing Joe Burrow for the season and winning a football game. It confuses people. Well, I should be happy. I'm happy that we won, but I'm so sad that we're without Joe Burrow. I'm conflicted mentally. I don't really know the space that I'm in mentally. That's what the Bengals have done. The Bengals are Red Bull vodka. You just mix things that shouldn't be mixed, but it brings about a weird energy in you. So we'll see a little more Red Bull vodka when we come back. Justin Kerr, Kev Nash, 1410 ESPN Radio. RBD. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, 1410 ESPN Radio. Jason Fitz for Yahoo Sports. He's on with Kevin and I tomorrow.
Fitzy!
So it's the Justin Kinner Show Wednesday through Friday, and then it's like Kinner and Kev Monday, Tuesday, right?
Something like that.
The Keith Byers
Got
Show.
a lot going on around here.
New day and time started today. The Keith Byers Show you can catch every Monday at 11 a.m. Every Monday from 11 to noon, you can catch Keith Byers. He'll walk you right up, of course, to the Rich Eisen Show, who will then walk you right up to us. So keep that in mind every Monday, the Keith Byers Show, 11 to 1 right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Been a weird day, especially when Joe Burrow left the field yesterday and headed to the locker room. There was just that weird hush over the crowd, Kev. Everyone knew, this isn't good. We've seen this before. But that's what this whole hour has basically been about, is about where do the Bengals go from here. So some of the comments that have come in, Kev, on the show, and let's make sure for those who are watching that they can read some of these. I always get confused. There we go. So Shaw says, in response to the Bengals potentially going to get a, Jameis Winston or Kirk Cousins, David Shaw says, don't get too excited. The organization won't get anyone too cheap. It's the Jake Browning show for the rest of the season. Cheap, possibly, yes. I don't think they're going to not get anyone because they're cheap. I just don't think Jake Browning's a bad option, as we've talked about. I don't think he's a bad option.
I don't think they're too cheap, so to speak. Missing an O on there, by the way. So like who's there to get? Like, you think gonna make a trade for Patrick Mahomes? Like, hey, give us your best quarterback of all time potentially, and we'll give you a bag of nickels. Yeah, that'll work. No, it doesn't work like that. There's nobody available.
Is Jameis Winston better than what you have?
No.
And if he is
talent wise, yes.
But not enough to give up. I think it would be silly of the Bengals. I forgot the running back they got last year. They basically threw, it might have been a fifth. It was a fifth, sixth, or a seventh that they threw away for a running back that they ended up, who was horrible. He's not even on the team anymore. They just threw a draft pick away. When you're as bad as you are defensively, you need every draft pick possible. I just think it'd be silly to throw away any more draft picks, especially for Jameis Winston, when I don't think that the difference between the Bengals making the playoffs, winning in the playoffs, and missing and not getting there is Jake Browning and Jameis Winston. Because unless Jameis Winston can go out there and tackle and stop the run and stop the pass and do all that stuff, this team still has the same problems today that they had even with Joe Burrow. There you go. I don't think they're going to miss the playoffs because they're without Joe Burrow. I think they were going to miss the playoffs even with Joe Burrow. I don't care about the 2-0 start. They played the two teams that they're 2-0 against were the two teams picking atop the draft and are two of the teams who are expected to be picking in the top 10 in next year's draft. So,
to be fair, we've seen them lose to teams that are horrible before.
Absolutely.
So I give them credit for pulling it out, especially the game against Jacksonville. Like, the Browns gave them that game. But, shoot, I'm sure they'll take it. But the Jacksonville Jaguar game, I think they went out there and executed enough to get the dub. But the fact of the matter is there's nobody out there in the NFL right now that they can trade for to just make them better than what's going on. Like, it's just like, I just don't see it. Like, were they going to get Jared Goff? Like, no, they're not going to trade for Jared Goff. Like, there's nobody out there. So there's no backup out there that's better than their backup.
Yeah.
That's been in the system.
If you're going to give up any draft capital, go get help on defense. I think you're fine as far as the circumstance you're in without Joe Burrow. You're very fortunate. There's some teams that don't even have the QB1. My team,
right? But like,
I'll take a Jake Brown.
I look at this like how we look at recruiting in college football. We always get enamored by the new thing, by the new guy. Like Chris Henry Jr. People are already enamored with him and over Brandon Ennis. Like, man, get Ennis out of here, man. When's Chris Henry going to show up? When Chris Henry Jr. going to show up? He's going to really take off. Like, you're probably right. But guess what? We don't know. But what I do know is the list of guys that are available free agent-wise, quarterback-wise, they're not better than Jake Browning, because if they were, they would be on the team.
Tyler 5 says, I say we stick. Shout out Tyler, by the way. Thanks for listening and tuning in. Tyler says, I say we stick with Browning. Sure, he made some horrible decisions out there against the Jags, but I trust Browning to win us some games and hopeful that he can get us to the playoffs. This team was, when he took over for them back in 2023, I think it was, when Joe Burrow went out in week 11, they were under 500. They finished above 500 with Jake Browning the rest of the way. You can win football games with Jake Browning. Are you winning a Super Bowl? No. Are you, heavy playoff favorites? No, but you'll win enough games with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Trey Hendrickson, who've been fantastic 2 weeks in. Well, maybe not Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but they were fantastic yesterday, and that's all that matters. Alex Early, what up, Alex? Alex says, I'm okay with Browning. Look at what he did 2 years. Yes, look at what he did 2 years ago when Burrow went out, top 10 in a lot of QB analytics during that time frame. Taylor will utilize more under center, play action pass with Browning under center, and the offense will succeed with it. And this is what I've been trying to say. This is where Zach Taylor can coach. Zach Taylor can coach. I'm just saying, Zach Taylor can coach.
So they got 15 games left, right?
Yep.
We don't have to go through the game by game.
But I'm curious who they have up. But yeah,
can they get 8? Can you get 8?
Yep.
The magic number is 8. So you got 2 in the bag already. Can you get 8 more? I think Jake Browning and the weapons on that team, I think they can get 8. And if you get 8 wins, you should be in the playoffs.
You have 8 wins, 8 more. And by the way, when he says 8 more?
Yeah, 8 more.
8 more.
Can you get 8 more? Because you already got 2 in the bag. You got 2. Can you get 8 more?
9.
Can you get 8? Can you go 8 and 7?
9 is the number to keep you in the conversation. You're probably going to miss it at 9, but 10, you're in.
10 total.
10 total wins. 10 wins, you're not missing the playoffs. I'd be very surprised if you missed the playoffs. The AFC is not very strong right now. Unless some teams start to strengthen up and take off, there's a lot of vulnerable teams. The AFC North outside of Baltimore looks very vulnerable. The East outside of Buffalo looks horrible. There's a good chance, and if Kansas City can get healthy a little bit, all 4 of those teams could make the playoffs. The Raiders look good. We're going to see them again tonight. Denver maybe is not as good as we thought, but we'll let the season marinate a little bit. But the Bengals, they're already 2-0. That's the nice thing too.
Yep.
You already have a 2-game head start, and that's what's important.
Number 1 in the AFC North.
Dolphins, Cardinals, Browns. That's what they close out the season with. That's the final weeks. If the Bengals are fighting for a playoff positioning, all right, you get Joe Burrow back in December 15th if he's cleared to play by then. You would have just missed the Ravens game, but you will have the Dolphins, the Cardinals, and the Browns.
All right, man, let's do it. Let's go ahead and do it. Man. We're here. Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right.
I hope you're not about to play no music.
No, gosh. Heaven forbid we get all that fixed, too. I mean, my goodness. But nonetheless.
I don't have paper to keep track of who said what, but I'll do my best.
So the Bengals schedule as we sit here right now. Okay, and again, they're 2-0. They hit the road for Monday. Is it Monday Night Football? No, they play at the Vikings. I'm sorry. It's the Denver game. That's the Monday night game or whatever. But so they're at the Vikings this Sunday at 1 o'clock, Kev.
That's a loss.
That's a loss?
That's a loss.
At the Vikings?
Yeah, that's a loss.
Especially because
Carson Wentz is taking over.
Yeah, the cheater is not playing. What a crybaby. I saw Shaw was defending it too. Something about the Vikings have a lot of problems offensively and blah, blah, blah. It could not be J.J. McCarthy, right? There's just no way.
They're great on defense.
But
they're great on defense. So I'm expecting Jake Browning to look like a backup next week.
But so you say they lose to the Vikings?
Yes.
All right, the Broncos in week 4?
Dub.
Oh, really? So they're at Minnesota and at Denver.
Yeah, you're going to split that.
Okay. That Denver defense, though, against that bad offensive line, this is your pick. Sorry. Yeah, at Denver. So you have them 1-1 splitting the next 2.
Yeah.
Okay. The Lions in
Laos.
week 5. All right. And then this.
Laos.
Green Bay. Okay. What about your Steelers?
Win.
The Jets.
Win.
The Bears.
Win.
Yeah, it does get a little sharp and soft in here a little bit. At Pittsburgh.
I'm going to say a win. I don't like the way the Pittsburgh Steelers are playing football. I know this is more of a Cincinnati topic, but I'm not a fan of how we're playing football, not only on offense, but more importantly, defense. So, yeah, that's a win for the Bengals. This, in my opinion, and I know it's early, but this going to end very bad for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year.
Patriots.
Ooh.
It's at home.
Ooh. And it was at home last year to start the season now. I'm going to say dub.
All right. At Baltimore.
Loss.
At Buffalo.
Loss.
At home versus the Ravens.
Loss.
And then the final 3 at Miami.
Win.
At home versus the Cardinals.
Loss.
At home versus the Browns.
Win. You get your 8.
That's your 8. I can't pick them over some of these teams. I think Kev, they can't run the football, and they can't stop the football, and they can't run Joe Burrow's good enough to overcome no defense and no run game. I don't know if the backup is. That's what I'm curious to see. And
so you don't think they'll get the extra 8?
I think they could probably win 6 more. I think they're going to get to 8-9 wins. Mm-hmm. I think they can get to 8-9 wins. Now, again, they get to 10. We're talking about one additional game.
But you know what? The thing is, and obviously we look at these teams with a microscope because these are the teams that we follow. I look at my team and people hear me talk about how much I'm embarrassed how Pittsburgh Steelers are playing football. But that's the team I follow. That's the team I watch the closest. And just like probably the second team I watch the closest is the Browns. And then the third is the Bengals. So I know all the ins and outs of these teams. But shoot, I'm sure there's somebody out there that is a Green Bay Packers fan that is nitpicking. Hey, we don't do this well. I don't like the way this is happening. I don't like the way that Romeo Doubs is out for 9 weeks with a separated shoulder. I don't like this. Hey, man, that left tackle, man, he's weak, man. And, he's going to do this, that, and the third. I'm sure there's guys out there. And, I mean, we just saw what the Baltimore Ravens Look, the Baltimore Ravens are 1-1, but they had a great offensive show versus the Buffalo Bills. They weren't great offensively versus the Cleveland Browns until Lamar just started throwing dimes to the third string wide receiver and stuff like that. But that didn't happen until Denzel Ward went out. So we can dissect all this type of stuff and be like, well, I don't like the way this team or the Bengals look on this. I don't like the way Minnesota's playing football, especially offensively. I don't like the way offensively the Denver Broncos have looked. I thought that, they would make a huge jump in the second season. And as of right now, they haven't. I mean, so I just think that they can do this. I think they can muster up 8 wins. I think those last 3 games of the regular season are vital at Dolphins, home with the Cardinals, home with the Browns. You probably gotta win all 3 of those. You're probably gonna have to win all 3 of those. And the way Miami Dolphins are looking, there's so many rumors about a fire sale, potentially Tyreek Hill going back to, Kansas City and stuff like that. They might be tanking for, I don't know who's the first quarterback on the board right now.
None of them quarterbacks look any worth a damn.
Carson Beck, I don't know.
Ooh, but look, if that's the case, then losing Joe Burrow means the difference. You're only going to win 2 less games than you would have with Joe Burrow. Maybe Joe Burrow's not as good as everyone says he is. I'm just saying.
There he is.
I'm just saying.
Hey,
I'm just saying. If
you
I
went a whole hour. You went a whole hour. I'm happy for you.
I know. I mean, it took me a whole hour to say he's not reliable. He's not. He's just not. He's sharp and soft. He's hurt all the time now. But nonetheless, I can't wait to see what this is. Zach Taylor. I think he's coaching for his job the rest of the season. Could have said that technically with Joe Burrow, but I think this is a chance for it was one thing to lose Joe Burrow in week 11 and coach the rest of the way, but you're coaching basically a full season without him. A team that stinks at defense, a team that cannot run the football. We're talking. I mean, the offensive line is horrendous. If you can win 10 games with a backup quarterback, guys, everyone out there that says Zach Taylor riding Joe Burrow's coattails, I think it's not that I'm saying that Joe Burrow's riding his. I just think this is a chance for Zach Taylor to get a little bit more of an equal slice of that, that pie, I guess. We'll see what happens. But
Zach Taylor going to say, watch me cook.
But nonetheless.
Say, watch me cook. Watch me get these 8 dubs.
All right, Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, 1410 ESPN Radio. right, everybody, we are back. I'm Justin Kinner with you here, Dayton's ESPN Radio, hour number 2, the Justin Kinner Show, presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. To be very clear, I had a lot of people that said, oh, man, Kinner, I bet you was enjoying. Yesterday, Joe Burrow goes down. The news came out this morning that Joe Burrow is going to be out for at least 3 months. I don't think it's 3 months. I think he's out for the season. I think it would be absolutely stupid to bring him back, but that's besides the point. I think that I just don't see this team being in position. Like, this team, it was going to be tough to make the playoffs with Joe Burrow to begin with. Now, you want me to believe that this team is going to be in the hunt in December with the backup quarterback? You expect Jake Browning, who threw 3 interceptions against a crappy team yesterday, and they won. I'm not watering this down. I'm not. I just, the messages I'm getting during the break on the text line and others are just absolutely insane. So I'm going to start ramping this up a little bit. Here's the deal. Even with Joe Burrow, it took everything. You guys were losing to the Jaguars when Joe Burrow was out there. How you beat the Browns is beyond me. All right. Look how hard with Joe Burrow that team had to work to win those games with Joe Burrow against 2 teams who were picking atop of the draft last year. What happens when you play real teams? Like, that's the thing. We all know that the Trevor Lawrence is beyond overpaid and is beyond overrated, and that the coach made a ton of boneheaded decisions. No, Kenner, there you go. You're being a hater. You're watering. I'm not. If you can't see that what I'm saying is truthful criticism, I can't help you. What did you see yesterday? Like, that was a great finish and a great storyline. And I'm a Jake Browning guy. Like, I'm sitting here advocating, saying it would be silly of the Bengals to give up any draft picks to go get a Kirk Cousins or anybody, because I actually think you have a very good backup. But even when this team has Joe Burrow, it was going to be tough for them to win football games. Even with Joe Burrow, this team can't run the football. This team can't protect the quarterback. This team can't stop the run. This team can't stop the pass. This team can't stop a nosebleed. And you want me to believe that a backup quarterback is going to come in and save them until Joe Burrow gets back in December? Where's the rationale in that? I don't see that. There's no way. Even with Joe Burrow, they were going to hit a stretch of games where I don't see how they beat Detroit. I don't see how they beat Green Bay. I don't see how they're going to split with Pittsburgh. All right. I don't see them taking any of the games against the Ravens, even with Joe Burrow. Like, they play the Bills. Like, I mean, those were going to be very, very difficult to do, even if you had Joe Burrow. All right. I mean, say what you want. I mean, about the Jets, but the Jets have guys that can get to the quarterback. I think Minnesota, that's going to be a tough one. I mean, what is the line on that? Let me go. I don't even know what the line is for that. I don't even know if some of these are out yet, but let me check. Yeah, these are out. Minnesota's a 2.5 point favorite at home. Maybe I think because of just how bad the Vikings offense is, that could be tighter than we think. But either way, I'm not hating, guys. This has always been a reality of the Cincinnati Bengals, even before Joe Burrow went out. I don't enjoy the fact that Joe Burrow got hurt. That makes this job tougher for me. I enjoy talking about Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, even though they're not my team. I enjoy the banter with you guys. I enjoy going back and forth. And I feel like your passion dies, as does mine, talking about a Jake Browning-led Bengals team than a Joe Burrow-led Bengals team. So y'all can shove it up your you-know-whats if you think that I'm enjoying Joe Burrow being out for what I think is the season. You guys could say 3 months. I just think it would be kind of silly. The other thing I'm having a hard time here with is because if I do this, it's going to sound like the whole I told you so. But I'm really tired of people blaming the front office and the offensive line for this. Like, a good offensive line does not keep your toe from jamming in. A good offensive line doesn't prevent injuries. It may decrease the volume of which you're getting hit, yes. But do you think that Joe Burrow has been sacked the second most times in the NFL since 2020? The question I have for you is, does his toe go back like that because he's been sacked 200 times since 2020? Or did it just because that's the angle of which he hit the ground? Like, I think we keep using this. We brought it up earlier that you talk about how bad the pass win rate is for this team. It's 27th, 28th, 30th, 32nd, and 28th this year. Like, I get all of that's bad. I think 2 things could be true. The offensive line really stinks, and he has turf toe just because his toe hit the ground a certain way, and it's not because of the offensive line. Even if you have the Niners have a good offensive line, Brock Purdy's injured and going to miss a few games. Like, you're going to get hurt no matter what. Guys, Joe Burrow is an injury-prone quarterback. The Bengals, when you have an injury-prone quarterback, you think you would invest more into protecting him. I just don't get how they have. Guys, I don't blame the Bengals for Joe Burrow being injured. Joe Burrow's always been injured. He's been injured even going back to college. Let's not forget the reason that he wasn't in prime position to win the starting job over Dwayne Haskins is because he had been hurt twice at Ohio State during his run there. He couldn't even compete with Dwayne Haskins during camp originally for the full time in the offseason because he was battling injuries. Joe Burrow's always been hurt. He was hurt going back to college. He was hurt his rookie season. He's been hurt every single season except last year. He's a injury-prone quarterback. That's not an insult. I'm not attacking Joe Burrow. It is a fact. Like, I don't know why you guys have to get mad at that. He is an injury-prone quarterback. That is a problem. That's also, why the Bengals should do everything they can to help protect him. But I think even if they did invest into protecting him, he would still be getting hurt. He would still be getting hurt. And that's the problem. So the Cincinnati Bengals, it's not as if they haven't even completely invested into the offensive line. The Bengals offensive line spending ranks 11th in the NFL for this past season. All right. That spending is very similar to where they rank right now for the current year. All right. So, it's just kind of one of those things where they're right there. They're not, bottom 10. They're not bottom 5. They're not middle of the pack. They're just slightly, sitting at 11th and 12th. They're investing into the offensive line. They're spending a lot of their draft capital on that offensive line. They're just not good at developing it. They're not good. They went out and got Orlando Brown Jr. Let's not act like the team's not doing what they need to do to get an offensive line in front of them. The Bengals cap hit last year for the offensive line was near $50 million. Don't tell me that a team that is spending $55 million a year on a quarterback, $40 million a year on a wide receiver, $70 million a year combined on 2 wide receivers, and then $50 million a year on an offensive line. Don't tell me that they're not investing into their quarterback. At a certain point, you have to look at Joe Burrow and just say, this is what you get with him. He's a fragile, injury-prone quarterback. Every year, it's something. And I don't mean like it's his fault. There's nothing he could do different. It's just a makeup of his. Like, this doesn't have to be a back and forth thing. But the reality is he's injury prone. And you're not going to win that argument with me. This is not me hating. How you could be a Bengals fan and look at me seriously and tell me he's not injury prone is beyond me. Here's the other reason I'm having a hard time feeling bad for how many times he gets hit. I feel bad that he's out for the season. I've already said that. I don't need to keep putting that disclaimer out, but you guys are going to hear what you want. I don't feel bad about the fallout from this, mainly because Joe Burrow, you got what you asked for. You guys remember how mad you got at me before the season? Because what was one of my big takeaways, what my big take on the season coming up, for all the struggles that I envisioned them having, I blamed him. Because this front office has proven that they are willing to give him whatever he wants. He went on that temper tantrum, the Super Bowl media row, and he threw that temper tantrum on every national show he can go on. He went on Fox Sports Radio. He went on ESPN. He went on Yahoo. He went on any sports platform he could, and he threw a temper tantrum to put the pressure on the front office to give him what he wanted. The Bengals weren't trying to get out of spending money. They were trying to get out of spending money in the spots that he wanted them to. The Bengals, we talked about the pass win rate for the offensive line, how that's one of the worst in the league. We talked about how bad this defense has been the last couple of years. We talked about the fact that this team can't run the football, but that was never a priority of Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow never made it a priority to use that platform on the Super Bowl media row to pound the pavement and say, we need a defense. We need an offensive line. No, we need more offense. We need 2 number 1 wide receivers. No, mofo, you need an offensive line. No, dude, you need a defense. I looked at how bad Joe Flacco looked yesterday. You guys actually made me think that they had something there. I'm mad. Y'all made me look foolish. Your defense is bad, and it's on Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow gets hit a lot. That's no longer the front office's fault. That's his, because he has the power. He is the GM of that team. Everything Joe Burrow said he wanted, he got. He wanted Trey Hendrickson, he got him. He wanted T and Jamar both signed, he got him. He wanted the Gesicki, he got him. Hell, and the Bengals said, I know you didn't ask for Noah Fant, but what the hell? Let's give you Noah Fant as well. Anything Joe Burrow asked for, he got. You know what he didn't ask for? We need to be better up front. You look at how the Eagles are winning. You look at how the Chiefs are winning. You look at how the good teams are winning. It's all about the fat guys up front. He didn't say that. No. He wanted more pass catchers. Well, guess what? You have pass catchers, my dude. What you don't have is a defense. What you don't have is a run game. And what you don't have is an offensive line. And for those of you, Kenner, you're just hating. I've heard this take on multiple shows throughout the day today. This was, on Sportsmanlike earlier this morning. Take a listen.
It's organizational failure. And the problem with things as they are now with the dynamic between the player and the organization is that Joe Burrow is complicit in it all. He's the one that decided he wanted to play general manager this offseason, saying he wanted Jamar Chase to get paid, T. Higgins to get paid, Trey Hendrickson to get paid. Well, you do realize this is a hard cap sport. And if you're paying those guys top dollar, that means you're not going to be able to allocate resources to other areas of your team. And one of those other areas that's coming up short, and that has historically come up short, is that offensive line.
Oh, Chris Canty, he's just a hater. Justin Kinner, he's just a hater. You can call me names. You can call him names. You can call me whatever you want, but what you can't call me is wrong. You're mad because I'm right. You're mad because Chris Canty was right. That's all I'm saying. Like, it's okay to say, you know what? Joe Burrow, you're still my guy. You're still Joe Burr. I still don't want to get rid of you. But there is blame on Joe Burrow in these particular situations, because if Joe Burrow was smart, he would be talking about how much they need a defense. They didn't miss the playoffs last year because they didn't have Noah Fant. They missed the playoffs last year because they had no defense. Like, what are we doing? This is very unfortunate, the injury that happened yesterday. It's beyond unfortunate. Don't get me wrong. But I'm not going to sit here and act like you don't get what you pay for. And this is what you paid for. You paid for an explosive offensive pass catch team, pass heavy team. But you also, you did not go above and beyond protecting your quarterback. You did not go above and beyond improving that defense. And you sure as hell did not go above and beyond fixing that run game. I've never heard a fan base brag about running backs in a run game that is so bad more than what you guys do. This team has problems. My team has problems too. My team is 0-2. They're going to be picking atop the draft. Go ahead. Let's get it out. The Browns are a joke. Yada, yada, yada. I get that. Nothing you say about the Browns changes the dilemma that your team finds yourself in at this point. So let's just beat you to the punch there. Shaw, you're on live. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going, bud?
Another day in paradise. What's up?
Oh, just calling about all this Joe Burrow stuff. I actually agree with you. It's not the offensive line this time. It's not their fault that he tried to step up in the pocket and jammed his toe into the turf and tore some ligaments. But ultimately, I do put the blame on the front office because they valued all the weapons and everything that Joe Burrow wanted instead of valuing an offensive line. Yeah, they went and they got Orlando Brown, but where's the pressure coming from? It's coming up the middle, and the two guards are absolutely atrocious, and the center is probably one of the worst in the league. So, I mean, it's fine and dandy that you went and got a left tackle. Well, on the last time I checked, there's 4 other guys on that offensive line. And
by the way, the center you talked about, they just gave an extension to because, the fans really like it.
Right, exactly. And like, instead of doing what should be done because you're running a football organization, you want to do things because the fans want it to be done. And it just doesn't make sense to me. And it never has made sense to me. And now here you are once again, and you're 2 games in. Congratulations. You started the season 2-0, but at what cost? And you and Kev were talking about it earlier. And it's the main reason why I called in. You were talking about how many are they going to win to get to, can they get to 8 basically? So that gives them the 10. You guys went through the schedule. I don't have it more than 4.
Yeah. And that was Kev's list. And that's why I said, hey, I'm not going to argue. It's your list. I think, and by the way, let's say that Kev's right and they do get to that win total. That's also an indictment on Burrow. And that's also, I know you're not a big Zach Taylor guy, but like Zach Taylor will deserve every flower in the world if they truly pull that off without Joe Burrow. Because if Josh Allen gets hurt in week 2 and misses the season, they're toast. If the Chiefs lose Patrick Mahomes, they might be toast even with him this year. But if they lose Patrick Mahomes in week 2, they're toast. Same thing with the Eagles and Jalen Hurts, even with all the weapons they have. The bottom line is, like, the Bengals, that was great that they went on to win yesterday, but man, that offense, your offense should not take a bump when your starting quarterback goes out the way that it did. It's one game, so I'm not going to overreact to that. But my goodness, you take out a starting quarterback, an elite starting quarterback from any other offense in the league, they're going to take a noticeable hit. The Bengals just seem to keep rolling because of all those weapons, but also it's not going to help them get to where they ultimately want to go, which is to win a Super Bowl.
The Bengals keep rolling because they were playing the Jaguars. You're not going to be able to throw 3 or 4 interceptions against the Lions, or, well, maybe not the Lions, but the Packers and the Ravens twice, the Steelers twice. And I understand Kev's down on the Steelers defense, but Jake Browning's not going to be leading you to the playoffs. There's a reason why he's a career backup, and yeah, he'll go out there, he'll win you some ball games, but it's not. I mean, there's a reason why you paid the money for Joe Burrow.
I think there'll be 6-7 wins in that range, not the rest of the way. I mean, total, like they'll finish 6 to 7 wins. They'll be picking about where they picked last year, in the middle of the pack in the draft. I will say, I do like Shamar Stewart a little bit, but also missing time like he missed in college. So, man, it's funny how the back of the baseball card thing always seems to be, that's a very accurate thing to follow in life, and it seems to bite them in the butt. Hey, let's get Jermaine Burton and ignore what's on the back of that card. Hey, let's, every name that they go to get bites them. Oh, the injury-prone Eric All, the tight end from Iowa. Oh, yeah. Oh, guess what? Hasn't played in 2 years. Like, everything, every red flag that pops up for these guys in college always follows them to the Bengals. It never fails.
It's almost as if you had more than 12 scouts for the NFL draft, you might be able to pick up on these red flags more.
Well, no, the sad thing is, Shaw, they see that they get the red flags. The red flags are being waved in front of them. They think they're good enough to overcome those red flags. That's a good. I'm with you. I get that. It's not like they're missing stuff. It's like, oh, I didn't know that was the thing. They know the injury proneness of Eric All. They knew about the character issues with Jermaine Burton. They knew about hey, how come he didn't get a lot of time out there. Talking about the offensive lineman from last year in Mims, and guess what? Mims going to be missing more time because he's injured again. Like, this isn't difficult to point out. And then I'm a hater. When I bring these things up, and then when I'm right, no one says a word. Not that I need anyone to tell me I'm right. I just like to remind people that I was freaking right about a lot of this stuff. So it is what it is. But
you're going to get proven right a lot this season, I think.
Not about the Browns. I'm going to be proven wrong about those Cleveland Browns a lot. But the
Bengals,
Bengals, yes.
Told you the Browns will finish higher than the Bengals will. They'll have more wins.
You're higher than I am right now if you say that. But there's a good. I mean. Look, the Bengals.
You played the Ravens. The Bengals played the Jags. It's a little different. I mean, that defense is going to carry you to some wins if they can figure out what's going on the offensive side of the ball, which I think they will. Again, you played the Ravens, so the Ravens are going to make all of your deficiencies come out and just make you see them right in front of your face. So the schedule will ease up for the Browns, and if they can figure out who the quarterback is just for a little bit, I think you guys can get to 7 wins.
No, this is what's going to happen. It's going to be the Baker Mayfield storyline. They're going to wait too long to pull the trigger on the QB change. Whether it's Dylan Gabriel or Shador, the offense will take off when that change is made. The problem is they're going to be over by the time they do it. They're going to get their arse kicked by Green Bay. It can get ugly this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
And then they're going to be stubborn, and they won't make the change until week 5 or 6. And then Cleveland could potentially go on to win 6, 7, 8 games. And then you say, if you would have made that change sooner and you win 2 of the 5 that you lost at the beginning, now it's a 10-win team. Like, I already know how this is going to unfold for Cleveland, which plays into your point. But I could see that storyline, because Quinshawn, I said I wanted Trevion over him, but he just looks different running that football. I think Quinshawn. I think that the Browns have some dudes. Cedric Tillman, big picture. I love the Harold Fannin, obviously Sampson, and then of course you had Quinshawn in there as well. And if they hit on one of these 2 rookie QBs, future, although they've always had sometimes bright futures and they've been able to put that star out, but we'll see. But the future needs to be now for some of this stuff because the AFC North, there's opportunity there. We'll see what happens.
The second place for the AFC North is just right for the picking, and all they got to do is just reach up there and grab it. So it just seems like with that team, they're always one or two pieces away from being a very solid football team, and this year's no different. But going to the land of the lakes up there in Minnesota, yeah, I mean, I obviously I can't deny it. I mean, he's been bad except for one quarter. So, but my point is, it's more than just him. He's missing his left tackle. The offensive line has not been anywhere near as good as what it was last year for Darnold. I don't think the play calling has been as good as it was for last year either. And now, before you even say it, a lot of that is because, well, how much is being limited on the offense because of the quarterback. I'll just focus on JJ. He's had a couple good throws here and there, but he's not throwing into open windows. He's not opening. I mean, he's not throwing the wide receivers open. He's waiting until they clear open like he was in college. Now, I don't know if that's because last year being off for a year has him completely off timing wise. I don't know. Or maybe this is who he was the entire time. I know that's how you and Kev feel and others, but he doesn't look to me, and one way or the other, you know how much of football I watched him play. He doesn't look the same to me. It doesn't look the same. Like his timing, his feet aren't matching where his eyes are. His eyes aren't matching where his feet and his arm are wanting to go. Like everything, it just doesn't seem.
It's almost like he just doesn't know what's coming. It's weird. It's just, I just can't, put my finger on it, and but we'll get there. I'm sure. I'm sure we'll get there.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll start getting some signs too. But I'm not going to get off here without allowing another disaster that happened over this weekend. And you might know where I'm going with this. How do you get swept? How do you get swept by the A's?
Oh, very simple. They're the Reds. It's in the water in Cincinnati. I don't know what it is, but that's the thing. Like, because it's easy to get up. Like, this is why I'm not letting them off the hook. If the Reds would lose to the Tigers and they lost to the Yankees and they lost to the Phillies and they lost to bad teams, to good teams, and then they lost to bad teams, then you're just a bad team. But
correct.
I'm pissed when you've proven you could do it. Like, I hate when people do this. I'm going to blame Nick Craw. I'm going to blame the front office. Those could be separate conversations, like our offensive line conversation earlier. Nick Craw's not the problem right now, and neither is the front office. Yep. And by the way, I'm going to say this without putting this disclaimer. Terry Francona does not need fired. He is my manager. I love Terry Francona, but I blame him.
I'm with you.
I think that it's easy to get your guys up to play the Tigers and the Yankees. Hey, guys, it's the Yankees. It's the Tigers. Oh, let's go to war. Let's go. It's up to the David Bells of the world, because I'm going to be fair here. I was like that with him. It's up to the manager. And by the way, screw that. Some of these are professional athletes. I mean, I'm a nobody. I never played sports at a high level, but I also never needed somebody to say, hey, Kenner, why don't you play hard today? Like, it's amazing to me that we think that they need that whatever. Bottom line is, I think it's just they're a weak mental team. They're mentally weak when it's easy to get up to play the Yankees and the Tigers and the Phillies and the good teams, but then you play like crap against the A's. I'm sorry that the Reds, they put the A's in ass over the weekend, getting swept the way that they did. That's pathetic. And I'm furious, and I'm sure that's where you're going to, but I don't give I think it's more pathetic that I would feel better if they couldn't beat the good teams, but the fact that they beat the good teams, it just tells you the potential that's there. And people are going to say, well, the front office didn't get them this. They got them enough that they can go beat the best teams in baseball, but now it's their fault when, you don't give the front office credit whenever, when they go beat the Yankees and the Tigers and the Phillies, no one says, good job, Nick Craw, good job, Castellini's. Right. But the second that they lose, it's all because it's the Castellini. So they gave them enough to beat the Yankees and to beat the Tigers and to beat the Phillies and to beat the Cubs and to beat the good teams of baseball. But it's the freaking ownership's fault that they couldn't beat the bad teams. That's on Ellie De La Cruz. That's on the Reds. That's on the pitching. That's on Terry Francona. That's on them. There you go.
No, you basically was as if you and I had already talked about this, because you took everything that I was going to say and you just eloquently said it way better than I could have. You know how hard I've been on the front office for years now. You know that, but no, what's been going on for the last 3 weeks, you cannot blame that on the front office. The team's been the team since February when they went to Arizona. So once they start meeting in Arizona and the team is getting built from that point on, and then once you get past the trade deadline, that's your team. That's what you got. And what we were promised with Terry Francona, not only was it the overall building of the daily lineup and all the veteran managerial skills and all of that other stuff. What we were also promised was when it was coming down the stretch, because this was David Bell's biggest issue, and this is what got everybody off of his bandwagon last year, I believe, was that this time last year, the team completely collapsed. Well, one of the things we were told in the offseason was that was what Terry Francona was coming in here, and he wouldn't let that happen. His veteran experience would not allow this team to collapse coming down the stretch. Well, here we are, 365 days later, and this one hurts more because the Mets have done literally everything in
They're
power
2-8. They're
to
2-8.
hand the Reds.
They're 2-8 in their last 10. But did you realize this? Did you realize that the Reds have lost 15 of the last 22? I saw that Chatterbox put that out today. I felt like they were winning a lot more than that, but that means they've only won 7 games in the last 22 outings. Like the Reds they're not staying in the hunt. They're being kept in the hunt. There's a difference. Like the Reds, like someone needs to put them out of their misery. Baseball gods are just toying with the Reds instead of just putting them out of their misery. It's unfortunate. But yeah, everyone's,
I haven't been the biggest of Kirby guys. But what he said something the other night, and it's about this same topic, and it woke me up. He's like, look, we've won 1 game out of a series now for like the last 2-3 weeks. We haven't won a series on a consistent basis for 2-3 weeks. The only thing keeping us in this race is the New York Mets.
Yep, and the problem is the other teams are surpassing them.
Oh, and the
Diamondbacks,
like if they would have won the first 2 games against the A's, like they would be in the wild card spot right now. But because you've lost so many leading up to this, and you lost the first 2 games of the A series, now you're not even, like you just said, you're not even just chasing the A's now. I mean, not the A's, but the Mets now. You're chasing everybody that was behind you by 8-9 games. They've all done caught up to you now. I don't know. It's another one of those things. Like, in the one hand, yes, they took you to baseball season, but on the other hand, this one's more hurting than what it was when they just lost 100 games. At least by now you knew they were already done. But anyhow, I hear the music. I know you got to go. Go Blue. Peace.
Justin Kinner, 1410 ESPN Radio. We'll be right back. 937-518-1410, the number to call and jump back in on the conversation. All right, so we're back in this. Damon Hunt says this in my comment about Zach Taylor. My frustration is you are correct. Zach Taylor can coach, but when he has Joe Burrow available, there is zero creativity. It's just my players are better than yours. Hope they win the one-on-one matchup. Guys, this is a great opportunity to discuss the Zach Taylor thing. Like, I'm just saying, you take Josh Allen off the Bills, they're not winning many football games. This team wins without Joe Burrow. I'm not saying they don't need Joe Burrow. That's crazy. But this idea that Joe Burrow is the straw that stirs, he's the straw that stirs everything. Yes, but like Joe Burrow, you cannot say is as important to the Bengals as Josh Allen is to the Bills or Patrick Mahomes is to the Chiefs or anyone else. Like, you take any of those guys off those teams, they fall apart. Outside of the interceptions yesterday, like the offense kept flowing. The stars kept getting the ball, like the offense kept moving. That's Zach Taylor. That's the system, right? Like, maybe there's a reason Joe Burrow was so adamant we cannot get rid of these stars, because without these stars, we're not going to be able to do anything. Yeah, like the system, the stars, Zach Taylor deserves credit for this. You take Josh Allen out of Buffalo, they're not winning games. Patrick Mahomes, you take him away from Kansas City, they're not winning games. Right? Like Justin Herbert, right? Whenever he's out and injured, the Chargers, they don't win football games. The Bengals win without Joe Burrow. I'm not saying they don't need him. That's absolutely stupid and crazy. They're not going to accomplish what they ultimately want, win a Super Bowl without Joe Burrow. But this idea that they can't win without him is just silly. It'll be interesting to see moving forward what this team looks like without Joe Burrow. I'm fascinated by it. And it's an opportunity. You know, people are saying, well, Zach Taylor, they don't look as creative. Joe Burrow has so much power. Do you think he's listening to Zach Taylor? You ever think that Jake Browning actually follows what Zach Taylor is saying and doing and following the scheme and everything else? You ever think there's a reason that the offensive line looks better for Jake Browning than it does for Joe Burrow? Because Joe Burrow goes into business for himself? Because Joe Burrow wants the long ball? He wants the home run play? I think Joe Burrow doesn't do a lot to make, him and Jamar Chase look good. Him and T. Higgins look good. But I think he sets his running backs up to fail. I think he sets his offensive line up to fail. He sets his coaches up to fail more times than not. There's a reason, all right, that, Jake Browning, when he follows the play, when he follows the offense, when he follows the scheme, the offensive line looks better. They ran the ball better when Joe Burrow went out yesterday. They continued scoring. I'm just saying. Don't blame Zach Taylor. It's lazy to blame Zach Taylor for their problems. Zach Taylor's not why they can't run the football, why they can't stop the football, why they can't protect the quarterback. Some of that's, yes, the talent's not very good on the O-line. The other half is Joe Burrow's not very good at also playing to the strength of the scheme either. He likes playing for Zach Taylor because he could do whatever he wants, because Zach Taylor's biggest flaw is he doesn't have the guts to tell Joe Burrow no. That's my problem. The front office doesn't. They're in this because of Joe Burrow. They put $50 million into the offensive line. They put $70 million into the wide receivers. They put $55 million into him. You get what's the salary cap? What is the NFL salary cap, by the way? What is the NFL salary cap? I'm curious what it is right now. So it's $270 million. So $170 million of it is Joe Burrow, the offensive line, and 2 wide receivers. So now you have $100 million to make up the entire roster, from your tight ends to your running backs to your special teams to your defense, because everything Joe Burrow wanted, he got. He wanted Jamar and T to get a deal done. He got it. He wanted Gesicki to get a deal done. He got it. He wanted Trey Hendrickson to get a deal done. He wanted everything he wanted, he got. So if you have that power to get anything you want, ask for an offensive line, ask for a defense, ask for a run game. That's why I don't feel bad. He got what he wanted. This is exactly what he wanted. But nonetheless. All right. We'll keep an eye on how some of this is going to play out. One thing I did find interesting, ESPN's Ben Baby was on earlier today and was asked about, okay, what direction do the Bengals go in from here? Are they going to start moving on from pieces? Could they dangle Trey Hendrickson out there? And by the way, did Trey Hendrickson, I don't even know if he got a no trade clause, and I doubt he did. But like, could the Bengals say, you know what? We tried. Gesicki, who wants him? All right, let's revisit these Trey Hendrickson conversations. Because by the way, I've been critical of Trey Hendrickson. I think he's been a dude. He's been like, my problem with him is that like at times he gets big sack numbers, but I never really like when you watch him, I never feel his impact on games. I felt his impact in Cleveland, and I felt his impact yesterday against Jacksonville. I think that, to his credit, while he spent a lot of the offseason pouting and everything else, he stayed in shape and he's looked phenomenal. I think I think he looks better in these 2 games than he's done the last couple of years, which is scary because he's the NFL sack leader. Good for Trey Hendrickson. Would the Bengals entertain blowing up some of these pieces? This is what ESPN's Ben Baby, who covers your Bengals, had to say.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be trading away pieces yet. I think you still need to see they've invested a lot in this roster. This offseason, spent on T. Higgins, spent on Jamar Chase. They just were able to find a way to keep Trey Hendrickson happy, so he's on the field for this season. So they were operating as if they were going to go out and compete right now. And you have a lot of money tied up in those guys, and also Joe Burrow. And so it's not like there's a lot of wiggle room for them to operate with. I think if you start trading away pieces, then you're actively saying, we think the window has closed.
Then say it. It's okay to say it. It's okay to pivot. Because I don't think, by the way, if this is the Bengals saying that the Super Bowl window is open, how is it open? You can't run the football. You can't protect the quarterback. You can't stop the run. You can't stop the pass. But we're 2-0. Yes. Look how freaking hard you had to work to beat 2 teams that were in the top 5 of the draft last year and will be in the top of the draft next year. Do you think you're going to throw 3 interceptions against the likes of the Packers or the Lions or the Steelers or the Ravens and the Bills and even the Jets? Do you think you're going to do that against those teams and win? Do you think that you're going to get outgained and dominated like they got dominated by the Browns and still won? You think that's going to happen against – you think that Buffalo is going to throw more than you, run more than you, and literally have more takeaways than you, dominate you in every facet of the game and lose? That's not happening. Do you think that, when you go up against the Bills and the Steelers, none of those wide receivers are just going to drop the ball right into your hands the way Cleveland did, not once but twice? You're not going to run into any other team that is confused by a player more than what the Jags are with their overrated top draft pick and the Heisman winner, which I called, by the way. I knew that was going to be a disaster. I'm very glad Cleveland decided not to draft him. You either make him a wide receiver or a cornerback. The problem is you're an average cornerback or an average wide receiver, and because you could be average at 2 positions, that made you worthy of trading all the way up and giving up a first-round draft pick in last year's second-round pick. My goodness, what a disaster that was. But that's besides the point. Like, let's just stop with that. Like, I get what ESPN's Ben Baby is saying, but they don't want to admit that, if they do that, that means that the Super Bowl window is closed. I don't think it's open. This team's not winning a Super Bowl. You can't run the football. You can't protect the quarterback. You can't stop the run. You can't stop the pass. I'm not hating. That's just like this team's not winning a Super Bowl. This team has to get balanced. The Eagles, you have Jalen Hurts, who barely threw for over 100 yards yesterday, and they beat the team that was in the Super Bowl out of the AFC yesterday. Jalen Hurts had, 5-6 games last year where he threw for under 200 yards, and they won those games, and they won the Super Bowl because they're balanced. They could pass, they could run, they could stop the ball, special teams. They have everything. The Bills, they could stop the ball. They have good defense. They could run the ball. They're okay at passing the ball. They're balanced. All the Super Bowl contenders. Look at every Super Bowl contender in football. Not every NFL roster is built the same, but every Super Bowl contender, there's one thing you could say about it. Like Baltimore and Buffalo are Super Bowl contenders, but their quarterbacks are different. Their offensive schemes are different. Their defenses are different. But you know what they are combined that makes them Super Bowl contenders? Balanced. Green Bay. They don't look or play like Buffalo or Baltimore. They don't look or play like Philadelphia or the Commanders or whatever. But if you could pass the ball, you could run the ball, you could stop the ball, special teams, you're a Super Bowl contender because you're balanced. What about this Bengals team, even when Joe Burrow is healthy, screams balanced? They're not. Like Denver. Like, I saw Bengals fans scoffing at the idea that Denver was a Super Bowl contender over the Bengals. And I'm like, but Denver, I would not take their offense over the Bengals, but I would take their complete offense over the Bengals if Bo Nix takes that next step, of course, because they could run the football. They have a good offensive line. They can protect the quarterback. You can get adequate quarterback play. And I'll take that over the home run plays with Jamar Chase with no run game and no pass protection. Like, balance is key. The Chargers are balanced. No one will take the Chargers offense over the Bengals, but I'll take the Chargers over the Bengals because the Chargers are balanced. The Raiders, no one will take the Raiders offense over the Bengals, but I think that the Raiders are a better team than the Bengals because they're balanced. The Chiefs are 0-2. They're better than the Bengals because they're balanced. Denver, balanced. Houston Texans, they have their issues, but they're closer to being balanced than the Bengals. The Steelers, they're not a good team right now because they're not balanced. Cleveland's not balanced. Baltimore, balanced. Buffalo, balanced. Go to the NFC. Philadelphia, balanced. Washington, balanced. Super Bowl contenders. Detroit, balanced. Possibly have taken a step back defensively, and if that's the case, maybe not a Super Bowl contender. But last year they were a Super Bowl contender because they were balanced. Green Bay, balanced. Super Bowl contenders. Tampa Bay, sleepy. They're a sleeper pick. I'm not picking them to win a Super Bowl, but at the same time, it's a very good defense. They could run the football. They could throw the football. They're balanced. They're better than the Bengals. I'll take the Bucs over the Bengals. That sounds weird saying, but give me a balanced team over the Bengals any day of the week. That's why the Rams, who aren't as good as what they were years ago when they won the Super Bowl, but the reason that they're still good is because they could do a lot of different things. They could beat you defensively. They could beat you through the air. They could beat you in the run game. They could dominate you with all three if they're all clicking at the same time. But look how perfect things have to go for the Bengals to win. I'm just saying, not hating. It just is what it is. The Bengals aren't balanced. With Joe Burrow, without Joe Burrow, they're not balanced. And without Joe Burrow, they're not winning the Super Bowl at all. With Joe Burrow, they weren't winning the Super Bowl at all anyways. So I think it was silly to say that they don't want to give up pieces because that'll signal that the Super Bowl window is closed. I think you're drunk if you think that it's open. How can you say that a team that can't run the football, stop the football, protect the quarterback, or run the football, how can you say that that team is a Super Bowl contender? You can't. Oh, Kenner, just a hater. Maybe, but I'm right. Kenner hates the Bengals. Sure, why not? Oh, Kenner's a Browns fan. Yep. The Browns stink. They're horrendous. But it doesn't make me wrong. And you know that. Justin Kenner Show, 1410 ESPN Radio.